The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello and welcome to another Soccer to the Max as the off-season is starting to heat up with so many moves and lots of happenings, both positive and negative, in the soccer world. And earlier today, it's finally happened, guys. As Erik and Rachael are both here with me, Miami MLS is actually a team in MLS. The 25th team officially set to start play in 2020. How do you feel, Erik? I mean, it's finally coming.
It's about time, I will say that. However, there's more than one passionate fan base in MLS, Don. Don't think I don't see what you're doing.
I feel like we're going to get so many correlations to Columbus every time. Wait till they pick Cincinnati later. I mean, for Team 26, I mean, you're going to be wondering. We said the same thing when they announced Nashville, right? Columbus wasn't in that video package they showed. Columbus wasn't in the what team you support in the fan survey that they asked about. I mean, they pretty much are, without coming out and saying it, just going, well, this is the last year, everybody. It's sad. But,
Just out of a potential Buckeye derby. You have any idea the kind of trophy that you could create for that? Damn it, Don!
not just Don, though. I don't think that one's totally on Don. That one is on Mr. Anthony Precourt and his not caring about whether or not Columbus should be keeping its team. But Rachael, I mean, as a person that doesn't live in the Florida area, like, what do you think about Miami Beckham United finally becoming a team?
I like that Miami is getting their team, but I think this kind of backs up mine and Erik's little Nashville got their bid accepted way too early, because now you have two East Coast teams. Where's the love for the West Coast?
Well, you do have LAFC.
But that's just one.
Right, I think what they would probably wind up putting... Man, Cincinnati technically would go in the East too, because that's where Columbus was. So do they move somebody else over there from one of the other cities, I guess, to balance it out?
Sacramento.
I mean, I think Sacramento, if they're coming, they are a distant third in that race right now. I think they said it's between Detroit and Cincinnati, and it's like, since they're basically just waiting for Cincinnati Stadium thing, whatever the hang-up is, to get settled so they can officially announce Cincinnati as the 26th team, and then we'll see what happens next year.
I mean, they have pulled some similar things like this, like anybody who's in the central part of the country, like a Houston or a Kansas City, flipping between East and West for convenience sake. They'll probably do something like that again.
Yeah, there's always restructuring when you add new teams to the league, so it's just about, I mean, are they going to take away games to try to make the schedule shorter with so many more teams? Did they start adding in more midweek games? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they got to figure out. You know, they already got to deal with the whole somebody's on a bye every week thing this year because of the odd number of teams, so that's something you got to deal with too. What do you, the problem is that the stadium thing is still hung up, right? you still got that lawsuit that's going to go on until the summer. And then, so even when they come in 2020, that thing with whatever's going to be going on in Overtown at that point, who knows how many years it's going to take before that stadium's done.
In the ghetto. It's a force of habit now. I'm sorry. Every time I hear Stadium in Overtown, that song gets stuck in my head.
Well, better than in the ghetto than nowhere, right?
This is true. Very true. However, oh God, do I go on another rant about the days of the Orange Bowl in a current stadium that's half stupid, that sits on the side of the Orange Bowl, that nobody really wanted, and the back doors of Miami politics, and how many people I just want to punch in the face?
Miami politics. That's a whole nother can of worms.
And the fact is, they haven't even accepted my hush money offer of a seat from the old Orange Bowl. Hook me up with one of those and I'll shut up. It's that simple. I do not know of the shame concept that humans speak of.
That's why you gotta love Erik. Just what he said. No shame. No shame at all. You know, Rachael let us know that apparently this is the 1-year birthday of the podcast. We have made it for a year, guys.
And no major catastrophes.
Yet.
Let's hope we can continue with that streak, honestly. But
we've had so many Dawns, we had so many Jills, we've got the mailman, we've got Boston.
Yeah.
Not to mention Ben.
Oh, and
hopefully
Ben
he comes back. Have they said anything about what he's doing?
Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, I know. Is he coming back or?
Yeah, he's coming back to the Fire.
Okay. Woohoo! We got him for another year, Erik.
Ha! As it should be.
You know, you think we're going to have any more invasion of certain New Zealanders, Erik, in MLS?
You know, I love mailmen. They deliver in all kinds of weather. But I gotta tell you, if you're gonna come to the U.S. and play soccer, could you please make sure my phone gets back to the Google factory so I get my trade-in credit? I mean, being a mailman here and being a mailman in New Zealand, it's not entirely different. It's in the off-season, so you don't have to worry about training. You know, kind of go and do your job. Then worry about the football at another day.
Oh man, I think we got all the catchphrases in here this early. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their fill on that. But sadly, we have to talk about some upsetting news. The Boston Breakers are no more, as they could not find a bidder for a new owner. In fact, when the FC Kansas City deal was going on, Erik and I talked about how that was really supposed to be Boston, but they had survived. And then turns out they're not. So there's only going to be 9 teams in NWSL this season, Rachael, and they're having a dispersal draft tomorrow.
And it's so sad. Like, it just... I have a few complaints. I have a little bit of a list here. First off, the league and Amanda Duffy did not do enough to help out, and they just piled on the excuses in the press releases and stuff to why the team folded. It just, it's so sad. Another thing that I wanted to mention too is that there's all of these former women's soccer players, former U.S. national team players like, Heather Mitz and Allie Wagner and all this stuff that have raked in some dough for a few years. Brianna Scurry, but in there too. Why aren't they jumping in there and doing something? I would love to know, with that last ditch effort, who the group of people who were trying to save the team were.
I wonder if that'll get revealed at all, ever. But, I mean, you bring up a good point, right? You've got all these former national team players that could have pitched in. I mean, maybe Ali Wagner's too happy at her job with Fox to want to have anything to do with being part of an NWSL group. Because I imagine that takes more than just, okay, I'm going to keep doing my thing over here and y'all do your thing. You got to kind of be on phone calls and in meetings and stuff like that, unless she just wants to be a silent partner or something. But it's sad. It's sad to see that the league lose a team after they made the effort of going and getting the Utah team so that you wouldn't lose. I mean, you lost Kansas City, but you didn't lose a number. And then you still go down one anyway. There is hope at the end of the tunnel for next season, though, with some MLS teams getting involved and perhaps that Barcelona team?
Yeah, they said in 2019 there's more than likely going to be an LA team.
Hey, that's good news, though. At least it's not like one of these where, oh, God, we're talking about what team's going to fold next. We're already talking about adding a team to the league, so that's a positive. But I know this is going to be old by the time people listen to it, but why not have some fun here? I mean, what do you think are some of the big players that could really help out some of these teams? They do have the draft order. I gotta go.
Well, yeah, Sky Blue's number one, and they're obviously they're going to take Rose Lavelle, and if they don't, there's something seriously wrong with them. I think the Washington Spirit have the second pick, and I think that that's such a really interesting pick because there's a lot of talent on the Breakers team. I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, they're going to go for Sam McCaskill, their draft pick from this year. Well, she hasn't even played an NWSL game this year. Angela Salem, midfielder, and Megan Oyster, defender, have both played for the Washington Spirit before. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Spirit bring them back, especially Megan Oyster, because their defense really fell flat whenever she left, and she and Caprice Didisco are really good together. And if they take Megan Oyster and leave Angela Salem, I would personally love to see Angela Salem go to the Utah Royals, maybe even the Orlando Pride. But I think Seattle might scoop her up. Abby Smith, their goalkeeper, she's a really good target. I think if anyone needs to pick up a goalkeeper, I think it's going to be the Royals because Nicole Barnhart hasn't even committed yet. And even if she has, she's not as young as she used to be. Orlando's got their goalkeeper already with Ashlyn Harris, and they just added today in a big mega trade Haley Kottmeyer. So really the only team that I can see taking a goalkeeper would be Utah. Seattle might come in and swoop her too, but I think those are the big name players you're going to want to watch for. Julie King's another one. Adriana Leone, Canadian international. I could see her going to the Thorns. Thorns have the fourth pick, so it'll be interesting because there's a lot of talent on that roster.
Yeah, I think no matter where you're picking, you're going to get somebody that's at least pretty good to get to add to your team. So, I mean, obviously Sky Blue, Washington Spirit, Seattle kind of get top picks, but even the Courage that are picking last, you're still going to have a good player to choose from there. So,
oh yeah, that whole first round, there's nothing but good players that are going to be taken.
Yeah, and they're not going to count against your player cap for this year, so that'll help them as well. Interesting, they're not going to just expand the roster, but they're just having them not count. But
Well,
at least Go
They
ahead.
may do something like you see in expansion drafts and other sports, is like, well, or even with dispersal drafts, you get certain players and you can have, like, say, a temporarily expanded roster, and then up until the official start of the season, you have to have these many players. So, in that way, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting who gets taken and everything when that hits tomorrow, and then we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, the next time we do a show. The reason we didn't lead off with the U.S. men playing their friendly is because that was one of the worst games I think I've ever watched in my entire life. That was putrid, to say the least.
In the words of one Loki Doki, it was a board draw. Ugh.
Oh my lord! I think the missing the penalty where you hit the bottom of the post, I think says it all. Like, you didn't even get it on frame.
That takes more skill than you think to miss that hard.
I know, but it's just like, I think there were certain players that did fine. Like, I thought Justin Meram was fine. Jordan Morris had some opportunities, so did CJ Sapong, but they were really just connecting passes in the midfield, and then not a whole lot was happening aside from that. Walker Zimmerman got beat pretty badly, I don't know how many times, and good luck with that, taking him from Dallas. Maybe that wasn't such a bad decision by FC to let him go, but it's a January training camp game. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. You're talking about a back line that's probably never played with each other. It's just...
Listen, that was the C team. That wasn't the A or B team. That was the C team, too.
Yeah, Bosnia, too. So, that's to... Honestly, Bosnia looked like they were going to score more than the U.S. did. It was just sad to watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, given the whole situation to where of a young NCAA player who's now currently at Nebraska of Omaha, acting as the reporter's translator, talking about the new coach who was a legendary player, and then at the end of that interview, you're asking the coach if the kid is going to see game time? This was set up to be just a weird and awkward match well before kickoff.
Yeah, I don't know. People were... I don't know that you can really, like, get upset about Dave Sarakin. The dude's just doing a job.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You're talking about a presidential election that's about to happen next week. Everything's just basically waiting on that. Who's going to win so that you can finally move things along. And then the U.S. soccer has to decide whether they want to wait till the end of the World Cup or not to name a coach, which I would suggest doing, because that's when you're going to have your best opportunity to take your pick of the litter and not just go hire somebody right now. I don't know. I mean, do you guys think that they should wait? I feel like you're kind of just jumping the gun if you decide, okay, February we're just picking somebody.
I mean, I guess it's worth waiting simply because there could be some coaches that you want that could all of a sudden be available depending on other teams and how they perform in the World Cup. I mean, as is, you're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with some of your current ideas, so...
You think they should be waiting there, Rachel, or you need to be already having a coach in February?
I think it'll be interesting to see. I want to wait because I want to see who he calls in March. And that's when you have it. Should there be like a match in March? I don't know the FIFA calendar off by heart. I'm just used to matches being in March for an international break. But like the next international break, it'll be interesting because that's when he can bring in Bobby Wood, DeAndre Yedlin, hopefully Danny Williams, all of these players. And yes, believe it or not, I did not say Fabian Johnson because he has been injured. That is a rant for another show. But it'll be interesting to see what he does when that happens, because there is not a lot of people that we saw playing with a bunch of those MLS guys running around everywhere that are going to take the field again soon for the team.
And bonus points if the new coach has a monosyllabic first name. Just saying.
And shout out to John Strong, the commentator at Fox Sports, because everyone is so used to saying the next head coach, who will he be? But he said he or she, and I was like, you go, my man. You go.
He gets it.
Hey, it could be. Maybe Jill will switch sides.
No.
You see how that's working out in Canada with John Herdman.
Yeah, and then the English women got Phil Neville. So I don't think that was such a bad... I think that wound up working out for them.
We'll see about Canada.
I don't know. I mean, the Canadian men are always going to have it hard because you got to deal with the U.S., Mexico, and then some of the, even the Caribbean countries are getting better, and, you got your Costa Ricas and Honduras and all that. I mean, it's going to take a while for them to reach, I think, that level still. But, I mean, if somebody can do it, it's John Herdman.
Yeah, and the fact that progress is slow on the Canadian Soccer League as well, or at least been very quiet. So there's kind of that still has to be ironed out.
Yeah, they certainly has not been a lot of talk going on that front. But sticking with U.S. national team, but going on to the under-20 women's team, they lose to Mexico. We had the under-20, was it the under-20 men's? Yes, under-20 men's won their first ever CONCACAF championship last year. Now the Mexican women win their first ever CONCACAF championship this year, defeating the U.S., who won it 4 times in a row. And that's 2 matches in a row they had to go to a shootout. Barely survived against Haiti and lose to Mexico. They still qualify for the Under-20 World Cup. Haiti winds up going along with them, so good for Haiti. But just interesting on that front. And 6 of the players play in that Liga MX league that just started in Mexico. So that's encouraging too. That women's Liga MX league is working.
Very encouraging, and this could be a sign down the road when you're talking about the different senior teams, because if your youth depth is creeping up there, the U.S. is going to face more and more of a challenge on the women's side down the road.
Tina Davidson did score the lone goal for the U.S., so hey, she started for the senior team against Denmark, and then scores a goal for the under-20 team. That's how you roll, right there. I'm gonna go through. I didn't even know this was a 16 team. I thought it was 24, and it's apparently a 16 team tournament for the under-20s, and that's a pretty formidable field there. I don't know where the U.S. is going to fall here, but just listing these out, you have Ghana, Nigeria, China, Japan, North Korea, U.S., Mexico, Haiti. The South America is still to be decided between Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and Venezuela. New Zealand, France is hosting England, Germany, Netherlands, and Spain. That is a pretty
Scary.
stacked 16-team field there. You think the U.S. makes at least the semifinal or something, or get knocked out before then?
Judging by some of those teams, it would really depend on the group. Because with a field like that, we could easily wind up in a group of death and just a quick 3 and out.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard sometimes because, we've seen so many times where somebody has a hard time in qualifying, and then they get into the actual World Cup where maybe you get to pick different players, you get the better selection because you're not worrying about who's playing with what team or having to deal with club stuff, and maybe they have a better shot, but I don't know, not necessarily encouraging going by what happened in qualifying. So I guess going with low expectations and hope for the best. Well, Erik, your team made an interesting move. Not only did they get Sasha Kljestan earlier in the year that we talked about, you also go and get Justin Meram. Talk about having a stacked midfield now.
See, this is why I'm really not mad about the Kyle Larin situation. We're getting players in different positions that kind of makes that less relevant. See, if somebody could realize this is how you build a team properly so you can manage expectations and save people time, this is how you get fans more interested. Orlando City, you are saving me. You're keeping me off the ledge. I like this.
Yeah, Columbus gets 750,000 in TAM and 300,000 in GAM. I love the fact that we're talking about allocation money in abbreviations and an international roster spot for next season for Justin Meram. So,
although I will say I am a little bit disappointed in those numbers.
Why?
How awesome would it be if, as they're coming out, number 9, the $1 Million Man, Justin Meram! See, they ruined it by $100,000. Damn it, Orlando, you nearly did it perfect.
Well, I mean, who knows what Columbus is going to be doing next year. They're all I see them doing is throwing out stadiums that they're not going to take for the final one right now. In Austin, of all places, not even Columbus. So, I guess take what you can get. They sold off Ola Kamara to the Galaxy, and now Meram is gone. Gonna be interesting who else leaves. I mean, Will Trapp basically bleeds Columbus, and you have to imagine this is kind of very upsetting to him, losing your 2 best players.
Especially when you're pretty much in fire sale mode. And I know exactly how teams go do the next season if they're in full fire sale mode. Wayne.
No getting angry at Ben today?
Yeah. Nah. You're getting a day off for now, Ben. You're lucky you've been quiet.
You think this kind of puts things over the top for Orlando, Rachael, as far as you lose Kyle Larin, but you got Dom Dwyer, and now you got 2 guys that can score and move the ball for you?
Well, I was just going to say exactly what you said. You've got Dom Dwyer paired with these 2 guys. Orlando, when they got him, they started playing better, but that was halfway through the season already. This is a whole new season. They have a whole preseason together. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be interesting because it's not like these guys have played together before. You've got one from Columbus, one from New York, one from Sporting Kansas City, and you kind of mesh them all into one now. But I think with their talents, I think it'll work out.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, Erik, you got to be much more encouraged about Orlando now, at least attacking wise.
I'm heavily encouraged because they're setting up the one exception to my main rule. They could make me realize that you don't always need two strikers.
Justin Meram can't play up there if they need to.
True, but the fact that they couldn't make this a non-necessity. Now, granted, Jason, if you hear me scream it, take advice. But I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. Ben, take a page out of this man's book.
I want to see a tweet from Jason Christ. I listened to you, Erik.
See?
I
You
made it
see?
happen.
And I'm giving this advice for free. I'm not even asking for tickets to a match. If, however, you were to send them to my mailbox, I would not complain, and I would gladly take the 2-hour drive down to attend said match. But for the time being, it is not necessary. Heavily appreciated, but not necessary.
Well, you should be expecting something in the mail soon, Erik. Perhaps hate mail from Jason Christ lovers.
There wouldn't be any need for any hate mail just yet. That would be on them. I'm saying here and now on the record, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Absolutely free. Again, if any swag would come into my mailbox if this works, I would not complain. But you don't have to. No rush. No pressure. I just look good in purple. Just throwing that out there.
Well, there you go. Need to make sure that we get Erik and Orlando shirt pretty quick here, so you can be rocking in fashionable style. Speaking of being in style, Montreal makes the biggest move in MLS history for a transfer. 18-year-old Balu Tabla from Ivory Coast signs with Barcelona B for an undisclosed fee, but he gets a contract that is worth 25 million euros for 3 years. That's incredible for a guy that was basically just training with Montreal, wasn't really playing much with them.
I mean, to have a contract with that kind of a release clause at 18, you are doing something right. And imagine the level of talent that's going to come out of just Barcelona's B squad that they can easily call up if necessary.
It's just incredible to me that is happening right now. I mean, it's not like a big name player, so I think it shows that there is some positives in the MLS system. This happens like very few and far between, so hopefully it will happen more often. So, that guy in orange that happens to be the president right now, he's causing problems with his actions for the U.S.'s and the joint bid of Canada and Mexico for the 2026 World Cup.
Dear sweet baby McJeebus. Hey Rachael, how do you feel about taking a flight to Washington? I don't like the sound of this.
Enticing.
I got family that I can't stand them, but I'd be willing to crash with them in reasons.
Well, so here is some of the article from Soccer America here. Until the August 10th deadline for submissions, no one in Morocco believed Morocco would even submit a bid. But 5 months later, Morocco is not only in the running, it is given a chance against the United bid from the USA, Canada, and Mexico. One big reason is the changing opinions around the world about the United States in the aftermath of President Donald Trump, including his most recent remarks about African countries.
Oh,
So,
dear.
what if Morocco winds up getting the bid because the president can't shut his mouth?
If we lose a World Cup bid to Morocco, I'm not even going to go on record with what I'm going to say because it would be held against me.
In the court of law, they're going to hold you to contempt, Erik.
If it was a bigger country, I would completely understand. I have nothing against Morocco. I'm sure it is a wonderful, beautiful place. But, bro, really? Really? If someone could actually, sleep at 3 and 4 in the morning like a normal person, instead of taking out a BlackBerry and going on Twitter, maybe, just maybe, there would be sanity left on this planet. But no! I'm just dreaming about wonderful and pleasant things, and someone decides that it's a prime tweeting hour. Jesus Christ, you're ruining Twitter for the rest of us. And this is a guy who had a 4-year grudge against Andres Iniesta because of Twitter. If I can overcome that, so can you.
Oh, man, that guy doesn't overcome anything, so he can't even overcome himself. But, one of the key reasons that also is important here is that you have to be able to guarantee visa exceptions for fans, players, coaches, and staff during the tournament. And, with the way a certain president feels about certain people getting into the country, that might be a problem too.
And the fact is, come 2026, he won't even be around to begin with.
Right, that's the thing that makes me go, well, why are we taking into account what's going on now? There's going to be a completely different person there in 2026. But
completely different person, hyper-intelligent extraterrestrial orb. There's a lot of possibilities on the table.
Who knows? We'll have the flying cars, all that stuff.
Exactly. I mean, we're right under the wire for finally getting hoverboards. Now we're perfecting that technology. And trust me, we in this country are known to overcorrect. If we went this far into the sea of stupidity, imagine what we're going to do next.
Rachel, you have any kind of comment about the fact that this is even happening here?
Yeah, Erik said it all. Erik pretty much got it.
Yeah, is there something else you guys were thinking we needed to discuss here?
I guess one more rat jumping off of the ship, the sinking ship that is the NASL. Aside from that, I got nothing.
Yeah, that Miami is playing in the NPSL because of the uncertainty going on with NASL. I mean, you would think that, but Rocco Camiso's too stubborn. You would think that would just say, look, obviously we're not winning this thing, and everybody just keeps jumping off. I mean, Puerto Rico's talking about that perhaps they can't even field a team, which that would knock you down another peg. I mean,
I'm honestly surprised Puerto Rico's even trying given the circumstances.
I think it's about like giving the country hope for something, right? Just saying, okay, we can come out of this, and even though there's still large parts of the country that doesn't have power, doesn't have water, to be able to say, okay, well, we're still doing stuff here, I think is important in that vein. But you gotta think about more important things than just soccer too, you know.
Agreed.
And I guess before we get out of here, I think there's a lot going on with VAR possibly being a problem when it comes to the World Cup because it's of how it's being handled in different countries, you know, because now it's being
No.
used in the English's FA Cup, along with Italy and Germany and MLS. And MLS, it went pretty well. You know, there's some things you could say that maybe the calls didn't go right or whatever, but Germany's had problems with, you know, bad decisions because the referee's not the one that makes the decision there. It's the going into the booth like the NFL, delaying the game constantly. 47% of the Bundesliga players want to abolish VAR, according to a survey. Gianluigi Buffon said it's no longer soccer, this is turning into water polo.
Oh, shut up, John Luigi. Happy birthday, but shut up. Go retire.
Wow. We have now just made another enemy on this show, fam.
Something about that dude.
Oh my gosh, how many more?
You know.
Oh.
Well, they're supposed to go to Italy to perfect the video review. But I'm sure that we're still going to have problems when the World Cup comes.
Going to Italy to perfect the review. Duh. You really think Italy, of all places, is the right place to do that?
Yeah, well, they don't even have a federation president right now.
Oh, yeah, right. Money changing hands, fingers missing, you know, full on the origins of Godfather style, horse heads turning up in beds. I mean, come on now. We know how Italians operate.
I just think FIFA needs to. You need to use the World Cup as okay, this is how VAR is going to be around the world, and that's it. You guys don't get to pick what system you do in this league and that system in this league. It's like, no, the way we're doing it at the World Cup is the way everybody's going to do it. We'll use the MLS system. Just obviously the whole like going into the booth thing doesn't work for soccer because it just causes a bunch of delays that's been happening in Germany and stuff. So maybe the MLS way is perhaps the best way. At least here we figured it out. I mean, we're the kings of replays, so you should be able to do things pretty smoothly here. But all it takes is a couple of really bad decisions in the World Cup, and you're going to have people just hating on this thing. And maybe all the optimism that everybody had for this when the Confederations Cup was going on is going to be soured pretty quickly. I don't know, I like VAR for the most part, but again, it's a bias from watching it on the MLS perspective where they seem to use it very well. But do you guys are pretty in favor of VAR for the most part, or?
I am, and my question is, where the hell is the rest of the International Football Advisory Board? Don't you think they should have stepped in at some point?
Well, that's the point, right? They were going to let these seasons go through in Germany and Italy and then reassess before the World Cup about whether or not this is going to be used. They're leaning towards going ahead and using it anyway because obviously doing something on the World Cup stages where and how well it goes would pretty much be able to determine whether this is going to work or not. But yeah, I mean it seems like the fact that two of the biggest countries in the world that have to do with soccer can't get it right doesn't seem to bode well for VAR. I don't know, Rachel, you watch Bundesliga more than we do. Do you kind of agree that it's bad over there, or?
I mean, in the matches that I've seen, in the cases that I've seen, they've gotten it right very little times with VAR. But, maybe that's also just the referees that are manning it.
That's just really weird to me, I mean, it's still the laws of soccer. I mean, can we not get that right? I don't know.
That's why I say the IFAB, England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Wonder Twin powers activate. Do you have to go full Captain Planet on this one? I mean, Jesus, it's not that hard.
Captain Planet. They're certainly going to have to use that
They're
heart, though, for that
like
to work.
by a power of Grayskull or Go Team Venture. Whatever you got to do, I'm along
My
with
God,
it.
we're going to get sued with all the cartoon references. we can get our own He-Man commercial like Geico. Nobody else is using He-Man right now. Go ahead and do that. Since we're already in Europe, I think we can just end it on this. They had the UEFA Nations League Draw. We're gonna just focus on League A here because there's 4 leagues to this, and it gets interesting that Scotland winds up all the way in League C. But League A has these all have 4 groups in them. League A has 3 teams per group. The 4 group winners are going to go into a playoff for the UEFA Nations League trophy in June 2019. The 4 that finish at the bottom get relegated, and then the top 4 ranked League A teams that do not qualify for the Euros enter playoffs, and then they get a Euro spot, whoever wins that. So, seems pretty nice to like use a system like this to not only qualify for the Euros, but to make these things seem like they matter. But these groups are pretty stacked, though. Germany, France, and Netherlands in one group. Good Lord.
Yeah, and I mean that there's normally when you have a tournament like this or even something similar, you can easily point and say, oh yeah, that's the group of death. But you're looking at all of these and it's like, you could pick that pretty much out of 3 of the 4 of them. It's a pretty wide open for those semifinal spots.
Yeah, Belgium, Switzerland, Iceland. That's pretty, you'd think that Belgium would win that, but, Iceland's been pretty tricky. Switzerland's pretty good. Portugal, Italy, Poland. Italy's that wild card right now. Don't even know what's going on with their federation. And they'll have to figure that out by then. Spain, England, and Croatia also. That could be another really tasty group just to watch. So this will be fun to be able to check out throughout while these are going on. So I think this is cool that this is happening, and I'm kind of excited now to see when CONCACAF does it, how it all works out.
Yeah, it just wouldn't surprise me if CONCACAF goes and CONCACAFs it.
It's CONCACAF. I mean,
True.
how would they not CONCACAF it? They don't know another way.
True. Sad, but true.
All right, I think that's going to do it for us this week. We will be, unless something crazy happens that we have to talk about, we'll be back sometime next week, Sunday or Monday, to have another one of these. If you like what you heard and you want to keep listening, and just immediately when a show appears, it'll be there in your queue. You hit subscribe on Soccer to the Max, or you can subscribe to the whole WTM network and get every podcast that comes out there. All the podcasts that I do. Erik and I also do the American football to the backs, and we'll be having our Super Bowl preview edition tomorrow. So that one will be interesting for you guys to listen to. Also on the American football end is the kickoff with Erik, Harry, and Brandon, and well, Steven whenever he decides that he needs to grace people with his presence. And you know, yeah. So
I mean, it's apt, so I'm not.
I mean, it's true. It's true. I think that's more like a running joke for Harry to say every time. But yeah. So I mean, thank you for listening to us for a year. If you've been around since the early days, it's been cool to been able to do this for this long, and not something that you always plan. I didn't know we were gonna be able to keep this going for that long. I thought somebody would have got tired by now, or we got tired of each other. But it's actually cool. We all became friends, and Erik keeps everything awesome with. Now he probably has like 20 catchphrases to go with this podcast. So.
It's what I do. And remember, folks, this is me when I'm sober.
We still need to do still need to do a show when Erik is drunk. That would be. If this is like what he's like when he's sober, imagine just the off the wall things that we'll be having. But all right, until next week, enjoy your soccer, and we'll see you later, everybody.
Peace.
See ya.